is on my wish list, the Santos De Cartier. Stay tuned, a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings. Too many to share all at once. Welcome to Wrist Swap, my name is Harrison. If you don't watch the channel, we talk about watches and I typically give a very blunt review of my impression. I don't sugarcoat, I tell you how I feel. Heads up, this video is sponsored by Oura. I'll talk about them more later. You can see my link below where you can get a free trial for 14 days. So big stuff out of the way, let's do that first. The specs are on the screen. The size and wearability is pretty obvious. It's a slightly smaller model than most people would expect. This is the medium size. This is what I tend to prefer out of a Cartier or almost dress watch. It's very slim, it's very svelte. My wrist size is 6 3/4. People ask me that all the time, 6 3/4, and it wears perfectly. The bracelet is a little stiff. It doesn't have the same kind of articulation that you get out of a Jubilee or an Oyster bracelet or a lot of the sports watches. It's very much more like a bracelet and how stiff the actual bracelet feels when it's on the wrist. It doesn't straighten out a whole lot, but that's not that big a deal. The aesthetic of the watch is very elevated industrial. I don't know how else to describe it other than that, because it's got, you know, all these different screw head looks on the watch. And so the polished surfaces on the bezel itself is a point of contention that I was concerned about when it came to this model. And it kind of stays that way. This is one of the main reasons, I'll get into a little bit later, one of the main reasons at least, why this watch is not perfect and is not going to be sticking around. But some of the innovations that Cartier have in the watch, I think, are fantastic. First off, it's a sports watch and a dress watch. It's 100 meters water resistant, so you've got some sports element to it. It's kind of marketed as a do-it-all watch, but because of the fact that it's a Cartier, because of the style, because of the way it looks very much more like a dress watch than a sports watch. So it's right in the middle line, leaning a little bit more towards a dress watch, which makes it such a go anywhere, do anything, or gotta watch. I never even knew that abbreviation existed until the last couple months. And this watch has been a big feature of that. And there are a lot of things I love about this watch. First off, the value that you can get on the secondhand market I think is fantastic. This watch is typically resold for around $5,500 to $6,000. And that is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to luxury watches, that's a really good value. Imagine you're going out and you're looking at buying a Tudor. You could also buy this, and this is definitely more of an elevated expression. Not just in the fact that it has Cartier on the name, but the actual look of the watch, the feel of the watch, the design, how thin it is, the corbishon on the side here, the really cool ability to remove bracelets and links, which is a great innovation. It reminds me a lot of Apple Watches, frankly, in the fact that you can just press down and pull out the bracelet itself from the head of the watch, or the fact that you can size it by pressing down on these hidden buttons on each link, and it basically spring fires back out that pin that's loaded in there, so it releases it. You take the pin out, then you can take the link out, and you can size it on the go with really nothing more than a pencil in theory. So that's really neat. I mean, that's not something you find on most watches. So all of that in this package for the price that it's at is pretty incredible. And I think that it offers a lot of things to a lot of different people. I'm typically in a warehouse or in and out of a warehouse that involves welding and cutting things apart with punch presses or saws, or all these things mean that I can't wear something that looks like this around workers that are working with stuff like that. Even if I'm not physically doing it myself, there's a limitation to what I think I could probably wear in that environment. So I typically don't get something this nice, but I still had a big interest in it. This has been a hot watch for a while, and for good reason. As I said, the wearability of the watch is fantastic. The look of the watch is fantastic. The layout, especially in this medium model, I think it fits my wrist really well. It's nice and understated, nice and elegant, and it kind of fits into my day-to-day life. You don't really notice it because the weight is light, so that is fantastic. That's something I always love about a watch I wear on a daily basis. So okay, Harrison, I get it. You like the watch. Tell me, what are the negatives? What are the things you don't like? You always have nitpicky things, right? I do have nitpicky things. And a lot of it just comes down to the fact that I feel like it's towing the line between a sports watch and a dress watch, but it doesn't really lean too hard into one or the other. So a word from our sponsor, sorry to interrupt. Oura is a company that helps prevent you from getting in trouble with identity theft. Especially if you're a business owner like myself, people are always trying to scam your information. My father has had his information ripped off or his identity stolen or his credit card broken into, I think 3 times in the last year and a half, which is crazy. But every single time, it's just a hassle. Not only do you have to try and get all the money back from your credit cards, but then you have to get new credit cards, swap all your subscriptions to make sure that they match the new credit card. So it's a big issue. I mean, even if you just Google search your name, you may find some information that's concerning. And data brokers will actually source this information and then sell it to robocallers, telemarketers, spammers, that sort of thing. So if you want to prevent robocalling like that or spamming, Aura will identify people who have taken your information and are spamming you and automatically opt you out of the phone calls. They'll even opt you out of junk mail and telemarketing lists. Aura can also monitor your email addresses and passwords to see if they were involved in any data breach or exposed on the dark web, and gives you recommendations on what to do. The Aura app also features a VPN, password manager, real-time credit and identity theft monitoring, and protects your devices from malware. Aura has almost every safety tool you need to navigate the internet in one app. So let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online. So if that's interesting, you can use my link, which is down below, and make sure you have the /wristswap at the end of aura.com. To try for 2 weeks, it's free to try for 14 days. And just to see how many data brokers are selling your information. If I'm gonna buy a sports watch, I'm gonna buy a sports watch. I'm gonna get something that's a bit heavier, a bit bulkier, a bit bigger, one of those three things. Now, I typically like light things, but sometimes I like a big, heavy watch. That's why I'm so attracted to Zen watches, always have been. I love the sort of rugged nature and aesthetic to them. If I want a dress watch, I want to lean hard into a dress watch. I want to get a watch that's, you know, very elegant, like a Tank American, or something that is uniquely interesting and uniquely elegant in some way. And this watch is somewhere in the middle. And so for my collection, I probably would rather pick a sports watch or a dress watch. That's what happens. When I look at this watch, I look at it and I think, you know, I love it. I already have sports watches, so I don't really want a sports watch. When I look at it, I don't want a sports watch. I kind of want a dress watch, but it's not enough of a dress watch, I think, for me to want to keep it. Now, that's not saying it's a bad watch. I'm not at all saying that. A lot of people have this, love it, wear it, and use it all the time, and it's a perfect watch for them. There's nothing wrong with the watch. I'll tell you that right now. It's perfect, but just not for my collection, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be. That's not because I don't like it. The biggest thing I don't like about this is the butterfly clasp. This is the second Cartier watch, actually third. My wife, I bought a Cartier Tank Française. My mother bought a Tank Solo with a metal bracelet, and this is another one with a Cartier butterfly clasp. Now, on theirs, it's almost impossible to pull it away. It doesn't actually have a double push closure. So on theirs, you don't actually press this button to get this to disengage. You actually have to pull them apart. The problem is re-engaging it. So if I go to press this in, for example, that's how much effort I have to put into it. You probably can't see how much effort I have to put in, but it takes a lot to get this to sit down. Now, obviously the caveat to that being that I could press the sides of the deployment clasp and then close it in, but it just feels very unrefined. The actual closure of this system has always been really stiff, and all of their watches that I've ever handled have always been really stiff for whatever reason, and I've never enjoyed that. It always feels like an afterthought to me. The other thing I don't like very much about this is the fact that it has this really cool quick release system. I don't like that I can't put normal spring bars in this. Because it's basically got these slots in there, it means that, you know, if you don't use their quick release, you don't get to use anything. So you have to stick with their quick releases. And so if that's the case, I want to have a leather strap that I like. Well, the leather strap that comes with this, I do not like at all. And it's not the fact that the leather isn't nice, the leather's fine. It's the fact that the clasp, because it's a butterfly clasp, they actually have both ends of the leather twist backwards and stay on the clasp. Now, maybe these were supposed to be cut off. I don't know. I bought this secondhand. Maybe they were originally supposed to cut off the excess leather, but it's really weird to have all that leather pressed up against my wrist. I can feel where the ends end on each side of the clasp. And they're hard to not tear as you put your hand in because they want to twist and get out of the way. So I really, really, really hate the leather strap. But let's say you take the leather strap away. You take the fact that I can't use other bracelets away. The watch itself, it's designed well, and I love that about it. It does give a very elegant and sporty nature. If you're looking for a go anywhere, do anything watch that leans a little bit more towards dress, especially if you're someone that wears a suit, this may be perfect for you. It is definitely different. It's not just buying a Rolex, and I appreciate that about it. If you're someone that has 6 3/4 inch wrists, I would try on the medium first, but you may want to go a large. I think people with my size wrist and larger typically lean into the large size Santos De Cartier. So definitely try on both models. I like the medium, I prefer it, but some people may prefer the large, so definitely try that. So that's pretty much it for me and the Santos De Cartier. I really love it. You know, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful watch, but it's not for me. It's just, I want it to find a place where someone enjoys it, and maybe it's their go anywhere, do anything watch. If you're interested in buying this, I'm selling a lot of the watches that come in for review, so that way I can buy them and then sell them and make sure that I have unbiased reviews. You can go to wristswap.com. I'm not gonna become a watch dealer, but I do sell a couple of the watches that are review on wristswap.com, so you should be able to find it there. If you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below. Love talking about this model line or Cartier in general. Do me a favor and subscribe. It's incredibly helpful to me and the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.